All right, Marj, since we're gathered and we're rolling into our call, why don't you lead us off with your invocation?
This is quite amazing to me that we can absolutely be present in the presence with what is unfolding in the now moment. And so we simply say, "Come, Holy Spirit, O beloved one, essence of all that is, reveal yourself, move in us, flow through us, be us in the world. Give us the words that you would have us speak. Show us the way. Reveal that which is your plan in our lives, in the collective, on this planet, in the universal dream, which is part of the theme that we will be talking about today." And so we simply take a deep breath and say, "Thank you, God. Thank you, God." And so it is. Amen.
And
Wow.
thank you, Marj.
What an amazing day this is. And, to be able to be totally in the flow, in the present moment, to deal with whatever arises, what more can we ask for in our lives or in the world? If the world could function in that kind of resonance, it would certainly solve a lot of problems. And so welcome everyone. I'm so delighted you're here with us. It's just an amazing gift for me to be here with Steve Farrell, to be here with Ross, to be here with Mary, and all of you. Garth, working with us with technology again, another miracle that's unfolding. And it is amazing to realize that miracles happen in the midst of chaos. Miracles happen in the midst of confusion. And we simply say yes, and we simply enter the field of the miracle. And so that's where we are right now in this moment in time. And so I'm so delighted that you're here. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Steve Farrell. Steve Farrell is really one of the heroes in my life. And that's very interesting because you were born in, am I right, 1957?
I was.
I learned that looking at your book, I think it was, which makes you exactly 2 years older than my son would have been if he were still alive. And yet here you are, one of my heroes. So who can we look to in multiple generations, in all of the stages of our lives, in all of the ways that we live in the world, and recognize the heroes in our life, the heroines in our life, or just allow that essence to know the real self of everyone? And where would it take us? Where would it lead us? So I'm so excited about today's call. Interestingly, the kinds of things we wish for and with our human minds don't always unfold in the timelessness realms the way we thought they might. I attended, and Steve, I'm sure you probably remember this, the week-long retreat you did with Barbara Marx Hubbard in Loveland.
I do.
I actually gave you a copy of my book at that time and spoke to you briefly. That's the only time we've ever met in person. And I thought, oh, wow, something could come of this. Well, the universe has its own timing. And here we are with universal timing, which is part of timelessness, part of the essence, the God plan, and I am thrilled. I'm so, so thrilled to be here with you today. And I want Ross to be actively involved as a co-host today because he knows you well. He considers you to be one of his dear, 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 dear friends and very significant in his life and holding visions for the future with you as well as with many other people, and that includes me. And so who knows where spirit will be leading us. And so because we have sort of moved in the awareness of the stages of our lives and this 4 acts of our lives, I'd kind of like to start there. And then I want Ross to be able to just jump in at any time and ask questions or take us in another direction or whatever. So that's my plan for today. And just to be in the flow. And isn't it interesting? It happened before the call ever actually officially started. A requirement to be in the flow, say yes to the flow. So you were born in 1957, Steve, and the first act of your life. And what was your hometown?
So, well, first, thank you so much for, wow, talking about a generous introduction. You covered a lot there. So thank you for that. And I do remember meeting you in Loveland, where we were with Barbara Marks Hubbard. What a wonderful way to start our friendship, huh?
Yes.
She was really something in all of our lives and is present from the other side, as we know, doing this important work in the world. Okay, so and then of course Ross, boy, talking about a brother, he's a soul brother that Ross and I are on quite a journey together, and with Mary and Stephanie, my wife, Mary, of course, Ross's wife, and so many, all of you here, we are on this journey together, right? So, and this journey is is one of you, we could call it surrender or service or something, but it's there is no separation, right? It's kind of the center of this whole thing. So that's the surrender, where we're really the arms and legs and lungs, the fingers of the one, where we're here on earth, to usher in this new way of living that starts with our personal awakening. So I'll just kind of leave it at that and go to your question here, Marj, which is kind of where did I grow up? So my father was, he went to the Naval Academy actually, and he was on nuclear submarines there for my early years growing up until second grade, when he left the Navy to go into the Peace Corps. And then he moved us down to Honduras, the capital, which is Tegucigalpa, Honduras. And from the second grade and third grade, I was down there. And then we moved back to the Washington, D.C. area in Northern Virginia, Fairfax County. And that's really more or less where my formative years, from end of third grade through to college, where I lived before I went on my big journey, this big adventure where I moved west out to Northern California. And now, of course, I'm in Boulder. So that's kind of how it started, moving around a lot with a whole bunch of brothers and sisters. And my parents got divorced when I was in the sixth grade. So single mom, divorced, working full time, legal secretary, raising 7 kids. So boy, imagine that.
Wow. Were you a Catholic family?
We were. I was altar boy there in the early years. Yeah, Catholic family.
So there's those religious imprints, religious rather than spiritual, probably, although Catholicism includes high mysticism, one of the few religions that that I have learned a huge amount from.
Yeah, I would just say, of course, Catholicism, boy, and back then we didn't have the Pope Francis, right? So it was a different church. But here's the good news: is our journey, in this what we call conscious living, which it goes by many names in humanities team. We call it conscious living. one of its fundamental aspects is that we're going with the soul, which is that still small voice that we listen to. And so I was not really taking from Father Cowie and these others at the church that I was involved in my understanding of God at all. I'd always felt, the reason that I clicked with Conversations with God, of course, Neil Donald Walsh wrote this 9-book series. The reason I clicked with it, it was like, oh my God, the God of my understanding, the one that's been talking to me my whole life. It's right here in the flesh, these words, which was the wisdom that was responding to Neil's questions. So on some level, maybe all of us would say that maybe that's how our conscious journey began, where we were tuned into the
And
one.
what I'm really wanting people to do as they listen to your story is, if you have a piece of paper, jot down some points in Steve's story that you're saying, oh my God, that happened to me. For example, my father died when I was 11 years old and in the 6th grade. I felt in many ways an immense loss, but as I've matured, I also realized that there was a feeling of what I've called abandonment. Did you ever feel abandoned with that divorce? And in my life, it was a death. Did you ever feel lost?
Yeah, here's the thing that's quite ironic is I'm going to come back to that because there's a tinge of something that I want to, in transparency, share. But in the overall, I felt a freedom. My mother, we worked full time. I had all these siblings. She didn't know where I was or what I was doing or what, and I really, in my book, I share, I sometimes Friday, I'd take off and go to a friend's home, come home Monday, and my mother wondered what the heck happened to me. And I got a job and I needed braces in the 6th grade. I had a paper route and I'd pay my 5 or 10 a month to the orthodontist, who was kind enough to let me go on payments because my parents couldn't afford braces. So no, I would not have become the person that I am without that upbringing. Now, in full transparency, I've taken tests that examine who I am and this. And the one thing that has been turned up is they say, there must have been something back there, Steve, where you felt that you couldn't necessarily count on people. Something happened because it's showing up as that there was something that where you became very self-reliant because you felt like you couldn't count on. And I wonder, Steve, what that might be. And I know that would be a part of this whole divorce thing is I just climbed into my own capsule there and said, okay, I'm going to drive my plan. I'm going to drive my life. So there's that residual.
Yeah. So I can see that in my life, becoming self-sufficient, because I didn't have my daddy to depend on any longer. and he always told me, sweetheart, you can do everything. You can do anything. I believed him.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Boy, that sounds like great parenting.
Yeah, it was. And your mother's job was?
She was a legal secretary.
A
Yeah.
legal secretary. Interestingly, I found that link in my life, and I want people to look for these links. What I have recognized in this role called legal secretary is there is an imprint of law. And on the human plane, it's called human law or constitutional law or courts or whatever. But on the spiritual plane, it's about divine law.
Mm.
It's a higher vibration of the same imprint. And what I'm recognizing in your life are these higher vibrations of human imprints. The divine law imprint that comes through your mother's genetic structure, even, and her influences on you or lack of them, and the imprint also of your father, your birth father, that involved international living and the Peace Corps. Oh my God. It was like a vision, the Peace Corps, of the vision of John F. Kennedy.
Right,
And
right. Yeah.
and here you are in your life in your 60s, living another higher level vision of that genetic imprint from both your mother and your father.
Yeah, and so I love this divine law that we're now kind of going into, because this is when we talk about this whole oneness thing and conscious living and so on. Really, boy, when we talk about the fruit is this where we're leaving this transactional way of living, which is really pretty much the way this planet, by and large, lives. Object to object. I'll do this if you'll do that. It's painful. It's really painful where I've felt into that and back as a young man and knocking on doors, and some of the customers or friends and their mothers, and oh, it's Steve. This transactional thing where we're not conscious yet, where we haven't gone through the awakening experience. It's by and large transactional, and it's just painful. So no, and then you're calling this divine law, which is, yeah, it's divine law. It's this divine presence, this thing that's way beyond relational, which is the next step over, which is nicer than transactional. But this divine law or divine presence, this is the fruit, as I experience it. This is the juicy thing in living this way, where in our daily practice, even now, I look out at nature now here with this group, where we're really together in this divine law or divine presence, in the sacred, in the one, in the timeless, right? In the potential that has no ceiling, right? We're in that. That's this environment of divine law. And boy, this is where, our heart is open, and we're hearing well, and we're really together in this conscious way. This is the fruit. This is the whole. Sometimes people will say, as I'm doing like a podcast of, okay, I can see, Steve, for elites or business people or such, yada, yada, a benefit to conscious living. But the person that's just making $600 a week, that is getting up and has to go to a job, and that is got to get to bed by X time to wake up by Y time, and it's just a treadmill. What does this offer them? And this is what it offers them. This is the thing, is we can leave, this transactional of, and this treadmill of just kind of walking almost blindly, through life. It's just the next day and just the next day, and it really there's not a nourishment there. There's not this beautiful thing there, which is this divine law thing. This is the thing, and from anywhere in the world where we can live into this, and it can be a loving environment then, with our partner and our kids and our coworkers and all of these things, and this when we talk about in Humanities Team making conscious living pervasive worldwide by 2040, because our particular work, which we call conscious living, yes, it's in the microcosm or in the individual. It's in our individual lives, which is what we're talking about here now. But it's also in the macrocosm. Of course, these are linked, because as we live into this, even as we are now, all of us that are here on this Zoom session, as it spreads, this tipping point thing is real. It is
Yes.
at this 8 to 10% level. And then there's this whole new beautiful earth, which is this divine law. It's this divine presence. It is this way that I think it was the whole invitation in life in the first place. And I'll stop there.
What I'm beginning to realize now is that I live in both worlds simultaneously. I live in heaven on earth. And do I always experience it in that realm, in that reality? No, not when I lose track of that alignment. It did for a couple of minutes this morning as I was feeling frustrated about all of the dynamics of that arrived unexpected and as surprise relative to getting on this call. And isn't it interesting that they can show up, and we have no control over those kinds of dynamics and surprises in our life. I want to just touch briefly on this amazing tour of adventure that you took as a teenager, hitchhiking across the country, and how it catapulted you into a whole other level. And I'm wondering how many other people have had those moments of getting catapulted out of one reality into another reality. Do you want to say a little bit about that period of your life?
You bet. Yeah. So that was I was just graduating from the 10th grade, and I was the summer there before going into my junior year. And I, as you mentioned, with a friend, I hitchhiked then from Virginia, which is there on the East Coast, I-80 across to the San Francisco Bay Area, and then stayed in Yosemite for a little bit, and then I went down and was I-70 down through Texas coming back. So the big circuitous route hitchhiking across the U.S. And as you mentioned, it was very formative. I still have trouble totally understanding how my parents let me go, because I'm sure there was some worry on their part. You know, what they say is, wow, it must have been divinely guided, because my father passed 10 years ago. I'm not sure I really drilled down on this one with him, but with my mother, who I was living with, I did say, how did you end up letting me go? Thank God you did. But she said, I really thought that there was something maybe transformational that might happen, that there would be some new opening,
She
some
had a
door
glimpse.
that you might walk through. Yeah. And indeed I did, as you mentioned. What happened is I was then picked up by people that were all very loving. Many of their lives were quite challenging, and I didn't get a sense that they knew exactly where they wanted to take it or what their purpose was and things like this. And I did come home then with the perspective that, boy, I'm going to have a vision in front of me, and a plan in front of me. I'm going to go drive that plan in my life to take me where I want to go. I don't want to be drifting. And so I did. I was quite changed following that, in many ways, how I cleanliness in my room, in high school, how my grades then, which were better grades. I just matured, I think, in a lot of ways.
That is such a wonderful, powerful story. And so many people have gone through those moments where they were at a point where clearly, as I look at some of their lives, and as a minister for 30 years and listening to people's stories as they sat on my couch sometimes or often, they were being offered a possible shift, a shift into another realm of living. And you said yes to that shift. And I want to take that another step as in your meeting up with Neil Donald Walsh. Did you meet up with him right after he wrote Conversation with God?
Book one, yeah, book one came out in 1995, that was the year I picked it up. And this is where this big, huge, my own personal awakening experience really got going. We met in the late 90s, probably around 99. He had sent out a newsletter asking people, is there anyone out there reading this newsletter that's putting this Conversations with God type narrative to work, in terms of a business then that's going in new and more productive, helpful, healthy directions. And I certainly had. Now, I thought that the whole world was putting this wisdom to use, because remember, Conversations with God, book 1, 2, 3 came out in that time frame. The media was reporting, oh my God, everybody's got this on their nightstand. They were coming onto ABC and CNN and all these shows. So I didn't think that there was anything sort of unique going on with me. I thought, oh, the whole world, is being impacted, influenced by this wisdom. And it turned out that that wasn't necessarily the case. There, over the years, I think there's been quite a lot of impact. Many people would probably share their businesses or changed. I'm not so sure a lot of people put that right to use. I did because I felt like I needed to be in integrity to what I was growing into. And
Well,
so he invited me to come up with Stephanie and meet him and his wife in Ashland there in the late 90s.
this is another parallel because I read Conversations of God when it first came out and immediately did a talk series on it, 7 weeks. And we sold in a small church. This is before we did our building campaign and tripled attendance and tripled again, in a small church with probably less than 80 people, a small church, 400 copies of that book.
Wow.
Because as we started putting out our publicity about what we were doing, people started coming. And here's another interesting divine timing kind of thing. I tried my best to get in touch with Neil Donald Walsh and tell him what was happening. Guess what? The statistics for church bookstore sales are not counted in the statistics that are reported in the New York Times, for example. And I was never able to personally connect with Neil Donald Walsh. So isn't it interesting that, and never have, while Adishante and Ram Dass were coming and I was connecting with them, not Neil Donald Walsh. And now I'm connecting with him through you. But it was first book, Conversations with God. So how is spirit? I'm saying this to our larger audience. Many of people will be listening to it on replay, even potentially for years to come. How is God connecting you with people now that may show up in your life in future time? And is it in the form of a book? Is it in the form of a person? Is it in the form of someone that knows someone? How is it happening in your life right now? Very, very important question.
Yeah, that really is. So is that for me or for all of us, or who's that question for, Marge?
Anyone that wants to respond to it. Well,
Okay.
you now, because it's just you and I and Ross on the
Yeah.
mics now. In the last 30 minutes, we'll let other people share some of their insights.
Yeah. Okay. So, well, first, I think there was some magic in Neil not showing up actually, because the key, the most important message in there, or one of the most important messages, is that there is no separation for all of us. So yes, he convened a global conversation, and that wisdom is real, and it's changed many, many lives. Yes, but the key thing that is shared over and over and over again is every reader, you and all of us, as we're reading the book, it's taken to our own inner sanctuary, that the God is present right here, right now, that we are actually emanations of that one, right? It's a vibrational universe, an energetic universe, a spiritual universe. So these are all saying the same thing. And and this is important because, like, we did a tour around the world in 40 days back in 2007. And there were many people that, as we were going country to country, that would come to our program with Neil and me, and they were thinking Neil was like a modern day Jesus or something. And Neil said, hey, you got me wrong. I can assure you, I was asking those questions, and yes, the wisdom did come through me, but no, this was not. This is the one God, or the universe. Remember, life, love. We can use different terms here. We use the term the divine and humanities team, but was responding through me. So this is incredibly important, because the key teaching here is we do not go to outer authorities. See, it's said over and over in the material, take this wisdom and bring it to your daily practice and sit with it. And then if it is true for you, then by all means, you put this wisdom to work, live into it, embody it, and wonderful. And if it's not true for you, do not do that. Discard it. we all want to go to our own daily practice, our own truth, and then we want to live into our own truth. This is an essential feature of this teaching. It's anti-guru in that way. So important. And this is what in humanities team, as we're out with all of our programs, and it's very diverse, as you know. Gosh, the number of, we're now the largest global streaming platform for consciousness raising masterclasses and transformational education in the whole world. And we're translating our new programs in 75 languages. So we're like totally excited about that. So why such a huge library? Because it unfolds in a very different way for all of us. I might want to go grab something from Michael Beckwith, somebody else from Greg Braden, somebody else from Lynn McTaggart, somebody else in embodied practice, Qigong, yoga, right? Kim Wilbur. So that's what we're doing, is just bringing in the best practices there, because education is the most powerful instrument for transformation, and then letting people choose. This is, I think, what I would, my diet of spiritual or conscious content is this. I'll go through this program. Perfect. Now, but let me come back to your question of, so how's it showing up? How are we living into it? So one of the things that's really important here for us right now, and nice that Ross is here, because we're actually starting a big campaign right now. A couple of years ago with Neil, we announced this initiative called Changing Humanity's Future. As we know, even as we're having this beautiful conversation here now, which is lovely and I probably feels good for everybody, in the world at large, there are many people feeling quite alone, fatigued, and anxiety, sometimes depression, right? Post-COVID, there's a lot of this going on. And then in the collective, oh my goodness, do we want to go down the list of things that are going on that are quite challenging? So a couple of years ago, we announced this initiative called Changing Humanity's Future. You can go to changinghumanitiesfuture.com to read all about this initiative. And it's evolved as it's unfolded over the couple of years. Something came in here in the last 6 months called the Galileo moment that's a part of this initiative. And I'll just very, very briefly explain it. So what this is in the early 1600s, this man, Galileo, based in Italy, who was a premier scientist, physicist, and astronomer, he observed that the Earth was not the center of the universe, which was canon. This was the church's teaching and science's teaching, was the Earth was the center of the universe. And he said, it just simply isn't so. We are in a solar system that's not at the center of the universe at all. And boy, was he in trouble. And he paid a big price. He was not put to death, but he was under house arrest to the end of his life. And he changed the world just by his courage. One person stepped up, did the job. Now, in today's world, even though mystics down through the ages have said there's no such thing as separation, there's no separated self. And then Einstein, the biggest, most respected scientist in the world, said the biggest illusion in the world, the greatest illusion in the world, is the illusion of separation. And then he said, and there's this optical delusion going on. He says it represents a prison for us where we're just wanting to attend to those people closest to us instead of opening ourselves to the whole of humanity and the earth and nature, right? He said, and no problem can be solved at the level of consciousness creating it. He's saying we got to go up, got to elevate consciousness. So we move beyond separation, right? Out of this prison, he calls it. Scientists now, look, Nobel Prize for Physics, there's science everywhere, quantum physics, right? We've all seen it. Oh my gosh, everything is deeply interconnected, interrelated, and interdependent. There's a global consciousness animating all of life, right? This is all out there in science. And yet, just as the Earth was considered the center of the universe so many years ago, our separated self is by and large the center of our lives today. And here's where the problem comes in, because I'll use a pretty strong word, which is true for me. Some people might want to dilute it just a little bit, but if we look at our planet and where we're in this, again, anxiety and fatigue and all these things, what's causing that? what is causing that? What's causing that, I think, is we become almost like locusts, where it's just the me world that's alone. That doesn't feel any comforting or love or open heart. And it's transactional, just like we were talking about a little while ago. And then we're like locusts on the planet, where look at what we've done to the earth. My gosh. We treat it like a refrigerator or a warehouse, not as this sacred, soul-based planet that we're so fortunate to live on.
So
Now, the good news is,
I want to touch on your shift from Silicon Valley, when you went to San Francisco to lived in for a while in the YMCA, and then you worked your way up in business. You learned skills of leadership and amazing gifts, and as a result of that, actually co-founded companies, and one of which. I will let you to share just a brief bit about that, because what a platform shift.
Yeah, that's true. It really was, because I was, quite a juxtaposition, where you've got this kid that grew up the way I did, divorced mom, little home, paying for my braces, putting myself through college. And then I find myself at the center of wealth creation in Silicon Valley. And I'm even in the club, in those organizations that they have, the business associations, where like Governor Newsom was in my chapter. There were 60 of us in my particular chapter, really amazing people like him. So I did have that experience, and the whole private jet world, private ski area world, that whole thing, which for me, on the one hand, of course, I was like, wow, this is something, I haven't seen anything like this growing up the way I did. But also looking out at the world and in cognitive dissonance, saying, is this really where I'm supposed to be? Is this how I'm supposed to contribute? Is this what I am to do? And you mentioned there were two companies. They both went to 75 million from zero. And I was, the people in Silicon Valley, gave me the rock star status for that. Now, and then I was called to leave it all, leave business and leave Silicon Valley.
You're using a really important word. I was called. And, the title of my work in the last 12 years is Called by Love. I want to go with that phrase. I was called. What happened? How did you know that? What did you feel? And what was going on in your heart and in your soul? So just feel it again. This is not something that happens in your head. This comes from your heart. I know that.
Oh, it does. Yeah. I mean, it's alive even this moment as we're talking. And it's this, it is that still small voice. It's that soul's calling, that is, that we do not want to override it. This is one of the essential things about this conscious journey is, oh my gosh, we want to live into the fullness of that still small voice. And even when you're, for example, your family, I love my sibling. Even now we do a call every week and I see them, and love my brothers and sisters. My mother, who's still alive, love her dearly. And having said that, there were moments on this journey where people thought I'd lost my mind. What are you doing? Leaving Silicon Valley, and what are you doing here with this thing?
A lot of people can get stuck in that rock star status.
Yeah.
The world of wealth.
That's a big problem, is that adulation is actually pushes us away from this divine law that we were talking about. So we can't, if we're going to get stuck in adulation and it's just about other people and financial material reward, with a boy, and Ross could talk about this too. We know the lives that are lived in that. They might look pretty on the outside, but they're not real pretty. When you're on the inside, when you see what's really going on in general, by and large, they're not. So Yeah, we don't want to, that's kind of like a heroin, that adulation to just, you don't want to stay in something false like that. It's that true relationship with the one, which I call God, the divine, and just really wanting to be an instrument of her, of him, to the best of our ability. We don't have to be perfect because we won't anyway, and sometimes we won't even be excellent, but we'll do our best, to really live into that, and to love her as she loves us. So that whole reciprocal relationship. So that's what happened, is that love thing happened, that listening to the still small voice thing happened, and I followed it. And yes, it's like jumping off a cliff. Am I going to be okay? And I was married. I mean, my wife had to say she was okay with it too. Thankfully, I was led to the right person to marry, because most women would have told me to get lost when I went through this personal awakening thing.
How old were you when you moved to Boulder?
Let's see. So I just turned, in fact, my birthday was happening and I was turning 50.
Right at the midlife point where you make a decision.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It was the month of May. I turned 50 and we moved that very month to Boulder.
Amazing. Boulder's my hometown. What a beautiful, beautiful place to be called to.
Well, I have a quick story to tell about this kind of a calling and how it happened in my life.
And Russ, while you're doing that, I'm going to move back in my office.
Okay, sounds good. Just
Yeah.
uh, at one point in time, I was a lawyer in Dallas. I'm still a lawyer now. And I was on a trajectory. I had founded a law firm with a partner. And we were on a trajectory of trying to figure out how to make it in the law business and how to make as much money as possible. Okay. We had hit a point where each of us had brought home our first $30,000 a month, 30,000 bucks a month. And it's like, wow. Okay, now my kids can think about private school. Maybe I should get a better car. Now I'm starting to make some real money. It's stuff like that. It was all working, but it was awful. Didn't like who I was becoming. I was becoming an asshole, for lack of a better word. Phone in the ear, drinking, all of that sort of stuff. And knowing that this just felt wrong in my body, I would go down every lunch time. And instead of, going out to lunch, went to this Catholic church that was in the neighborhood. Beautiful Catholic church, very fierce on the outside, but inside beautiful, gorgeous rose window in the back, blue light streaming through, gorgeous icon of Jesus and Mary, and people were coming in and doing devotions and everything like that. And I just got to my knees and started praying, just say, God, this can't be what you have in mind for me. This can't be it. What is it? I don't have any idea what it is. What is it? I'm at this point where I've followed, the path. I don't have any idea. And doing this day after day after day after day. And then one day I felt this little presence next to me. And this old gray-haired lady, and Marj, you have gray hair, but she had blue hair. This little blue-haired lady comes next to me, and she hands me this little plastic rosary. And she says, "We're praying for your intention. We're praying for your intention." And then there was two little women that she pointed to in the back that I, had not really realized had been there. And they were the prayer warriors of this church. These three old ladies. So I took her little rosary, and all of that. And you know what? I wouldn't bet against those ladies. 1 year later, I had shifted my whole career into peacemaking, into mediation. And I was sitting in the highest office tower in Dallas, teaching the silverbacks and judges and senior partners of all the law firms how to become peacemakers. And it started a whole new life of doing it. So I just want to say that, we call and we do get answers. It's happened in my life, and I know it's happened in yours, Steve.
Absolutely. Yeah. Beautiful story. Yes. And it is so true. That's all we need to do, is even anybody here now with any challenge they might have is we just take it within and just sincerely, earnestly say, guide me, show me, and we will be guided. We will be showed. We don't need any external authority at all. It's all right there within.
Yeah. Say, Steve, since I'm kind of jumping in here, Marj, I know that we're in about our last 15 minutes, and before we maybe open this up for call questions and things like that, I want to make sure that we cover one topic with you, Steve. And I'd like for you to tell this kind of new group of folks, about your heart mission, about your why, why you're doing what you're doing now.
Yeah, thank you, Ross. Well, boy, yeah, my why. Ooh, that's my life. It's my why. And my why is that we are all of us here, every single one of us, and the earth itself and all life. We are all, you could call it sons and daughters of the Most High, emanations actually of the Most High. We are that. We, I believe, chose to embody here right now, while we're in this great pivot of the ages, this great shift of the ages, to be a part of this transformation, of this whole new way of living on the earth, where we move from this locust thing where we're just using the earth as a refrigerator or warehouse and not paying very much attention or focus or priority to each other, the 8 billion people here, which is kind of, where it starts for almost all of us, unless we grew up as a Sufi, and I don't know anybody that did. There are some, but we grew up with the Newtonian, Darwinian, I'm separate, my body is who I am, I have one lifetime. That's kind of how most everybody I know grew up. But where we go through this personal awakening, and then we walk through that doorway, I'll call it, where we see and feel all the things we're talking about here, this consciousness, divine law, loving presence, connection, all of these things. Boy, then we come into this delicious way of living, in our homes, with our partner, our kids, in our workplace. We can create these cultures that are beautiful. And we can, what we're doing here, extend the invitation, engagement, invite others, to deepen into this, to stretch into this, because it's like an ascending stairwell. There's no there in terms of an end zone where it just stops. As we know, we just keep climbing it, right? An ascending stairwell is what this conscious living is, where it becomes more and more beautiful, and where we become those real true fingers on the hand of God, so to speak, or arms and legs and lungs of God. Use the metaphor that we wish. And I have two adopted birth children. One, they're not children anymore, young adults, 19 and going to be 22 here in about 10 days. And I see all these babies and kids born into the world. And I do believe that there is an existential a crisis going on. It's talked about. It's in movies. The top movie on Netflix now is the Our Planet series, which talks about that. And there's a simple remedy. And that's what I'm doing with you, Ross, in this campaign, where we're talking about the remedy of it. It's right here, right now. We just live into this oneness, right? This diversity and unity, this divinity, this divine presence, this divine law. We just live into it. And then we have a beautiful life, and microcosm and macrocosm are connected. So where 8 to 10% of us are living that way, boom, the planet shifts into this new way of living on the earth. David R. Hawkins, his book Power versus Force explains this logarithmic thing, where that's how the 8 to 10% thing happens. It's logarithmic. So as we grow in our level of consciousness, and where you get to 700 to 1,000 on his scale, it's, there are millions of people that are impacted by your simple energy. So this is my why, is living into it, supporting us, this movement of us that is growing into it, that is embodying this conscious living on the planet. One, to enjoy it ourselves, and two, so these kids can enjoy a compassionate, sustainable, and flourishing planet for future generations, for years to come. And we can just discard this whole existential crisis period that we're in because we've created this new way of living on the earth. That's the whole thing for me in terms of why I get up in the morning and what I put my head to the pillow on as I go down each night.
Thanks, Steve. Beautiful.
Beautiful, just wonderful. And I'm so grateful that you have shared so openly. So have there been moments, and I'm sure there have, and feel free to say, I don't really want to talk about that. Have there been moments where you've hit the wall? Have there been moments where you absolutely felt the rug was pulled out from under your feet, where you felt wiped out? And I can think of the story of Jean Houston, and I asked her about her hit the wall moment, and she said, "Oh, we're really going to go there." And I said, "You can always say, I don't want to go there." And then she told me the story about when she was working with Hillary Clinton and helping her write her book. It Takes a Village to Raise a Child. And all of a sudden it was all over the newspapers, and this during the Bill Clinton scandal. And so I said, you don't have to talk about it if you don't want to. And so she said, I'll go there. And she said, what I did when all of my contracts began to fade, if people began to say, don't come, I began to go into an Alzheimer's home and study and talk with people who had Alzheimer's and begin to listen to their souls. And then she went on, and that call is still on Living Loving Legacy. I've kept that website active so people can still listen to those calls. And have there been hit the wall moments in your life?
Oh gosh, yeah, many, many. And thank you for asking, because it's important, that we talk about
Yes.
this, because if any of us are just walking on water and, oh, this is a breeze, well, who can relate to that, right? So no, I've had, oh my gosh, and this is it's a spiritual gem, like is my life. So there've been so many moments, this is part of why I wrote this book called A New Universal Dream, was to tell these stories. One was a moment where humanity's team, by all odds, was gone. This thing was not going to make it. The odds were 5% and at the most 10%. And then a miracle happened. I don't have time to tell that whole story, but we persevered and became who we are today. Personally, oh my gosh, there have been so many. So just one example, I mentioned two children adopted at birth. My oldest son has a case of OCD and anxiety that is off the charts. I don't think we've even met anybody yet that has a case that is as severe as my son's. So how that manifests is we sometimes where it was in its worst form, we both couldn't leave the home because there was too much anxiety, and even in its best form, my wife and I couldn't go on vacation together. We've now gone on 2 trips. We're going to go on a third, a short one tomorrow, where we're able to leave, and he's working through his the OCD and anxiety so that he can stomach that. So as you might imagine, where you're married all these years, we've been married since 1997, and we went through over a decade where we couldn't travel together. That's a real challenge, for the marriage and the family. Fortunately, I'm blessed by who I married, my son, who I love dearly, my daughter. So there are challenges like these and others, that happen. As I understand it, though, again, coming back to our why and why we're here, the idea was never some Cinderella story of we're just kind of on a magic carpet and sort of floating through luxurious or easy times. a diamond becomes a diamond through coal, right? And enormous pressure that's placed on it. That growth, that's how we grow into the fullness of who we are. So yeah, we don't, even this morning when we were having some technical troubles, okay, um, what I get from these things is just it's a spiritual gym. This is when we want to really be at our best and be with a smile and have it be real, be loving, keep our heart open, even as these hugely challenging things are going on. That's what Martin Luther King called when he said, darkness can't heal darkness. Only light can do that. Okay, that's what he was talking about, is where we stay at our best with an open heart, open, listening, caring, in service still, even as these really challenging times are here. So, I'm sure there are many more out in the future for me.
And I want to just say, to put a pause here, because Tom Habib is on the call, and and he has a hard stop in about 5 minutes, and I want him to be able to say hi. So Tom, can you come on the call?
Absolutely. I really enjoyed being on this. Can I share a quick story that Ross spurred in me? So these moments that are transformative and divinely inspired. I'm working at my uncle's roadside fruit stand as probably an 11-year-old. And all of my uncles and father did the same type of work. And my mother used to make me work there to keep me into education. And I'll never forget the day. It was a hot summer day. And this white Cadillac pulls up and it had air conditioning running in it. This was probably mid 60s. And she asked me to get in the car with her. And she told me how her husband was an orthopedic surgeon. At that point, I thought I wanted to go in medicine. I ended up becoming a clinical psychologist. And I'll never forget looking through that window of the possibilities of the future and why she was sent to me at that moment to show me what was possible. I always thought of that as a very divine, transformative moment in my life. And just wishing I could thank her for that. I mean, I just feel so emotional thinking about it. Because it was so huge, and I'm sure she she was aware of the opportunity to make a difference in that moment. But the generosity and the love was just profound. So those are the moments. It's why we all gather in these moments and we do our work, is we can't underestimate the impact we have on people.
And Tom, before you have to leave, I want to tell people that you are one of the people that is putting together the Integral Conference of North America, IOCN, and we're going to be sending an email out in the next week or about this. And I want everyone to know this is Tom, and Tom is going to come on as one of our guests on a future call. And he's just put the link in the chat box, and Tom will be coming on as a guest in a future call. June, July, August, somewhere along there. We already have May booked. So I'm so glad you were here today, Tom. And so let's go back to you, Steve.
Hey, I just want to say a little something about our timing. We got about 1 minute left before the top of the hour, which we said there was going to be an hour-long call. So,
No, I said it would be a 90-minute call.
90-minute call. All
yeah,
right.
The top of the hour will be when Steve and I sort of wind up our dialogue and we open it up. And if either anyone needs to leave, that's a time that they could, whether it's you or Mary or even Steve. But I will stay on and let people share parts of what Steve said or you said or I said that related to their own personal lives. Those oh my God moments when they say, oh my God, that happened to me. What could this mean in my life? How is this a North Star in my life? Is somebody throwing me a lifeline? You know, uh, we've had lifelines thrown to us in our lives, and so I'll stay on and dialogue with people on that managed to get on the call even beyond our technical difficulties. So, and that included Tom Habib. Isn't that incredible? And Jennifer Tyler is here, and I would love to have you, Jennifer, respond if you can be on the call for the last 30 minutes. So, Steve, let's go back to you. How long can you be on the call, Steve?
Let me just stay. Can I stay till like till 20 after the hour? There's another meeting
Yes.
starting
Yes.
at 12, but I'll be late to that because this is important and I want to be here to contribute.
Here's the big moments where you have an opportunity to say yes, or you have an opportunity to say, well, I can't really do that, and you're off on something, and um, I know there have been so many big yes moments in my life. One was at the beginning of this call when we were having significant technical difficulties and I couldn't get in my office and I had to move without a hookup to the kitchen table. And now I'm back hooked up so my computer doesn't run out of juice. Steve, go on with your story.
Well, let me come in and just share because Tom shared and Ross shared, and this is beautiful. There's a theme here, which is a beautiful theme, which is part of this whole awakening, oneness, conscious living thing, which is these kinds of miracles. I think it might sound extreme to call it a day and age of miracles, but I think that probably everybody on this call has their story like this, whether it was nuns in the back of the church or this woman that picked up Tom, who had created this transformational moment. Uh, you know, I grew up, as we discussed at the beginning of the show, Catholic Church. The whole first part of the Bible is just horrible, and the story of Moses is pretty horrible. But notice what's happening today, where we're really opening ourselves and living into the fullness of today, this loving one, the divine that, isn't it neat that those women were at the back of Ross's church, that Tom was picked up, that Steve, when he was hitchhiking, had these things happen, and then other things happened. I believe this is part of this whole awakening that's going on in this conscious journey that's going on. We're opening to these new understandings of, I'll call it God in life, where these old understandings of just this judging, punishment, better do this thing, we're discarding them because we're realizing it simply isn't true. Here we're giving personal testimony. Look at this personal testimony, where, oh, this is so wonderful that this happened, that my life has come into this. I know, Ross and Mary, I know their story, my story. Other people here, I think, have their story like that too. It's a very loving, in synergy, in miracles, divine presence that is here, I think, for us all and for the whole planet, and is supporting this evolution to what we're calling conscious living, this awakening experience and so on. So I just want to underscore and highlight that, because I think every one of us actually is opening our eyes to incidents like this that are supporting us and that are supporting the whole planet at this time, which is why I'm so incredibly hopeful, even as there are so many challenges in the world today.
Yeah.
And Mary actually chose the pictures that went into the email that came out. And this one I particularly love. And it's a quote from you, Steve. Every God job creates its own miracles. I have used the word God job. It's a God job so many times in my life. The home where I live now, Holly, Ed will sometimes say, how did this happen? And I always say, we didn't make it happen. It's a God job. What are the miracles?
Yes.
I want to ask people to think about that. Where are the miracles in your life? And are you recognizing when they happen. So yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. No, one of my favorite terms, and from the book, that was my mother-in-law that came up, coined that term, where early in humanities team, as I was telling her what it was and how it was working, her name was Artie. She's transitioned, but she said, "Boy, Steve, that sounds like a God job to me." And I said, "Wow, now that's an interesting description, Artie." And we've used it, kind of adopted that word in humanities team because it's not about me or Neil or Ross, or it's about something bigger. It's about the one, this universal consciousness that is animating all of life. It's about the one, and how we're being supported, and personally and collectively, as we're on this journey with these miracles that we've talked about and so many more. So yeah, and I would just say, of course, part of this is our daily practice, right? So it's so important that in our daily practice, we're really communing with the one. And of course, we're very intentional on this journey, where we know, it's like a rudder on a ship, we know where we're going, right? To this world that is where we're awake, where it's loving, where there's enough for everybody, where we're treating the earth as it deserves to be treated, and where we're metaphysical in our daily practice too. This is one of the key things that mystics talked about. Conversations with God talks about it extensively, the metaphysics of this, where we can see, feel, taste, and touch this future that we're creating. We live into it every day, actually, and we're taking steps into it every day. So I'll just stop there because I don't want to go too long.
So let's bring Jennifer Tyler on. And Jennifer, what's touched you about what Steve has said or what you've heard today?
Hi, Marge. It's so good to see you.
And
So
let
be
me
on
introduce you. Jennifer has an amazing story and does retreats both in the United States, Costa Rica, and other places. I'll leave it at that and let you go ahead.
Okay. Thank you. It's so wonderful to see everyone and to meet Steve. And yeah, my name is Jennifer Tyler. I related to everything that was said deeply and intimately, honestly. Through the divine miracle of grace here, through a varied walk of miracles intersecting with my life, ended up being a confirmed teacher in the lineage of Adyashanti, and I have a small sangha here in northeastern Oregon called Full Circle Family. I do retreats in Colorado and Costa Rica and Oregon. The essence of what's here through the divine awakening is to be in service to this dissolution of the belief in separation. And so everything that was said was like, yes, I'm in the right crowd. And I have subscribed to the Humanity Team newsletter and have been getting those newsletters and very much resonate with what you have to offer, Steve. And also, just meeting Marj was a miracle. We have the David Hawkins connection. We have the Adyashanti connection. I first saw Marj when she was having a conversation with Adya on a video where you did some conversations anyway. And I subscribed to her newsletter, and then she put out something one time where it was like, called by love, and love as the essence of the heart of matter. And I deeply resonated with every word she was using. So I reached out. And then during the pandemic, she graced our Zoom calls with her presence, and we became friends. And so all of it, all the full circle moments, all the miracles, all the deep intersections, and just to be a part of a conversation like this during the turn of the ages and the dissolution of the separation, the transactional way. Adya used to always say, we're moving from, hi, how are you? What can you do for me? Into a more global vision. The hi.
Dream.
Yeah, hi, how are you? What can you do for me? Is hopefully, and I think most definitely, on its way out at this point, and the vision of our true identity, our true nature will become manifest more and more and more. And so any conversation I can be a part of that is in service and support of that, that's why I'm here. That's my why.
And it's so amazing how it works, how spirit
Yeah.
works.
Yeah.
Because Jennifer, before she became a spiritual teacher, was a
Yeah.
hospice nurse.
Mhm.
And when my brother was going through his last days in Boulder, Colorado, Jennifer was one of the people that I would call and talk to many times. Guide me, help me. And so
Yeah.
those moments of when we say, help me, are part of this divine energy.
That's the truth. And the sacred togetherness, community, sangha, whatever word we put on that, but this togetherness that has as its essence a relational presence rather than a belief system and a belief system meeting like this, but relationally present as one another and for one another. That's the heart of the dream here. And the helping, it's natural, isn't it? I used to always say, if I could write a book, it would be a one-liner. If you're depressed, if you're anxious, and I'm not diminishing any of that. I know that there's a lot of deep anxiety these days, but quick, do something for somebody else. It's just so instantaneous, the uplifting of that, and the reciprocity of give and take, same, two sides of one movement.
Yeah.
So,
Jennifer, I'll just, yeah, can
Yeah.
I just respond to her for just a sec,
Yeah.
Marj? Okay. Just resonating just this morning in my daily meditation this morning.
Mm,
Kind of got a downloaded instruction right along the lines that you're talking about.
mm,
It was that it was an instruction, pretty clear, that I was to treat everyone on this collective mission that we're on, this mission of oneness, this mission of dissolution of the separate sense of self, as a spiritual brother or a sister,
mm.
and to help them in any way that I can. That's the job. It was just like, okay, that's the minimum that you could do. Just get that one right, and it's going to be plenty good if you do nothing but that. You don't have to write any books, raise any money, do all that kind of stuff. That's the minimum definition of your God job here. So don't look off, to some being the top of some pyramid or being some big deal or anything like that. It's going to happen exactly the way that you're talking about, Jennifer, face to face, hand to hand.
Yeah.
In that relational world, that's going to build the fabric underneath what um, it's the soil that we're going
Mm.
to. So just want to say that I want to thank you for that observation. I got the same download this morning.
Yeah, let me
Here,
come in too. It's beautiful. Yeah, Jennifer, wow, you are a true angel. Yeah, and very wonderful to meet you and feel your energy. I feel you too, more than just your words. And what I've come to believe, interestingly, the scientists are coming in with really important understandings here as we talk about these things, where they say, you're sovereign to one body. Usually, sovereign's like a country, but they use it with the body. No, you're sovereign to one body. And then they'll say, which means that you're inseparable. The universe and you, or God and you, are inseparable. God is not without you. The universe is not without you. So now that walks us right into these things we're talking about, doesn't it? Where it's not just about a little person prosperity consciousness of just me, or with my wife. It's my true self. It's this. Why? It's the 8 billion people here. It's the planet here. So and it feels so good, doesn't it? As we've matured and grown into this, where we're giving in these ways. And boy, you express so beautifully, Jennifer. And of course, and I work with Ross, who's like this with Mary all day long too. Um, it it just feels so good. Of course, we're going back to the well, to live like this more and more and more, because it feels so good. It's delicious. And that's the thing. So as we're all stretching into it, where we just stretch into it and try doing a little more, as we're talking about different experiences that we can have, things we might teach, retreats we might set up, a book we might write, how we treat somebody in the grocery store, where we just lean into it a little more, stretch into it a little more in these ways that are being discussed. It's so delicious for us, and it's creating this world that for many of us is our why.
Well, the retreat or the call that Jennifer referred to with Adyashanti and I was actually happened when we were launching Living Loving Legacy. And Adya invited me to come up to his studio and do a call live with him to his worldwide audience. And he said, what I want to talk about, Marj, is something that almost no one talks about. Everyone talks about evolution. Everyone talks about how the soul evolves, but no one talks about how the spirit descends. And he said, I want to have a dialogue, an hour-long dialogue with you about how it works, the descent of spirit. And he said, I thought and I thought and I thought about all of the people I know, all of the mystics I know that I could bring on a call and talk about the descent of spirit. And he said, you're the one, spirit descending. And so we spent a whole hour talking about the descent of spirit. I live by that every single day of my life. Probably I have said the promise from A Course in Miracles, come Holy Spirit. And it starts out, once I have accepted God's plan as the one function that I would serve, there is nothing else that the Holy Spirit will not arrange for me without my effort. And then it goes through a whole bunch of things about how that works. And I love that. So, Steve, before you have to check out, I have one more question for you. And that is, do you get glimpses of the fourth act of your life? I'm in the fourth act of my life, and I can describe quite in real ways the glimpses. They're not real yet, they're just glimpses. Do you get glimpses of the fourth act? This would be 75 to 100 of your life.
Yeah, no, I do. I absolutely do. And part of that awakening experience in the mid 90s for me was just reading this beauty as expressed in the 9 Conversations with God books. There was only, there were only 3, I think, or maybe 4 in the 90s, and then the others came after that. But it's essentially, the books talk about this common dream. We are all one. There's enough. There's nothing we must do. Many things we can do, but nothing that we must do. And I essentially, what I said there as I was reading this material is, I said, this is my dream. This is my dream. So that dream is my dream, and I'll help manifest the dream. And as we come up on June of this year, it's 21 years, where I'm still in that same place of manifesting the dream. So those glimpses are glimpses of where we're all over the world, with beautiful, look at this conversation, with Jennifer and Ross, and we can't see Mary on screen. Marj, my God, Marj, you're so beautiful, what you've done with your life. Where we're with these people all over the world, sharing their stories. And of course, this creates strength, doesn't it, for all of us that are part of it? We're all tuning into what is being shared. It's strengthening us, it's stretching us. It's helping further us in this conscious journey. And then seeing the world as it's shifting into this whole where we're seeing that we understand we're inseparable from this body, this world and universe of which we're a part, where we're giving that way, seeing people expressing that way. And yeah, that's the thing as I close my eyes for the last time. Yeah, that where I'm just observing that. And then it's like, okay, good. This has been a good life. I am good. You know, I don't need to live any longer. Where that's spreading, that's the thing. That's the North Star here.
There it is. There it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Mary is going to be visible next month because Mary is going to be our spotlighted guest next month. In May, the third Wednesday in May is going to be Mary Hostetter.
Oh, that'll be a treat. Yeah.
I think so too.
Mary
I'm
is
thrilled about that. Mary is another one of those miracles in my life that I call God jobs. No way that I could have done my life in the way that I've done it in the fourth act without Mary and Ross.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, our God family shows up, and it's quite beautiful, quite beautiful. So, do we have any people that have raised their hands, Garth? I'm wondering, is this David Jonathan that I'm seeing? Dave J. David, would you like to come on? You're an amazing soul.
And I might just, I'm going to go join my wife on a call I'm supposed to be on. But hey, thank you, Marj, so much for having me. Ross and Mary for supporting, you know, putting this together. Jennifer, oh, what a treat to meet you, you know, and Tom who came on. So yeah, what a beautiful community, and just boy, Godspeed to all of us, huh? Because
Oh,
there's no stopping what started already. This is going to go to its fullness here. There's nothing that can stop it now.
been an
So,
incredible gift to have you on. God's timing was better than my timing.
oh, well, love and peace and blessings to you all. Marj, you're a gift to humanity.
Thank you. Thank you. Oh, and thank you for the birthday wish that you put on Facebook.
Absolutely. Yeah, that was a treat to see it was your birthday right before the program.
All
Okay, love to
right.
you all.
All right,
Okay.
David Jonathan, I want you to come on, and I want to tell people a little bit about you. David Jonathan is an amazing soul. We've taught together, we've taught dream work together, we've taught at Unity in Tustin together, but he's helped me with all kinds of technical stuff. And most of all, what I want to say is you took 7 years of training with Brew Joy. Brew Joy was one of the superstars of the dream work world. And so, David, say hello to everyone. And what inspired you, or
Hello.
what did you connect on this amazing call with Steve and everyone? Where
Yeah,
did you
I'm
start
just
off?
enjoying the break in the routine of my day, to just be in this wonderful sacred circle as it is. It's how I'm experiencing it. So, and well, that was a while back. The dream work with Brew Joy, but
Joy's Way was Brew Joy's book.
yeah,
I
that was
cover to
yeah,
cover.
that and a book called Avalanche, and but my time with him was really being in the room with him. That was, which is how I do sort of sacred spaces. I don't seem to get a lot out of the books so much as being in a circle. But nowadays, I did a big move a little over 2 years ago with my wife. We moved to Tennessee. We brought well, it's now 6 cats, and now we have a dog. That was a lot of work, and we got a lot closer to where her son and daughter-in-law live, and maybe there'll be grandkids. They're working on it here, but in doing all of that, I've been so busy working on houses and working on a garden and taking care of animals, and I had the wonderful opportunity to pack up my office a couple of years ago, and I never unpacked it. So, which I slowly came to realize I'm very grateful for. And one of the interesting things about moving here, I live in a little town in the middle of Middle Tennessee that isn't really kind of anywhere. They're the nursery plant capital of the world, they say. So I'm just surrounded by tree farms, pretty much. And since I don't have customers anymore, I don't have to keep a schedule. So, Marj, I was never really very good about keeping track of time. So I have pretty much completely lost track of time. I mean,
You live in timelessness. I live there with you
yeah,
sometimes.
yeah,
I live in timelessness now,
I
and I
completely
like
do.
it.
Yeah, I mean, I set reminders, and my wife sets a lot of reminders.
And I know where we only have 4 minutes left.
Okay,
And I would like to say hello, if it's possible, to Susan Gilmore.
yeah,
And she would have to be willing to come on. I'm just inviting you, Susan, to come on. You've done an amazing job over many, many years at Unity in Tustin with the prayer ministry. And are you willing to come on? Are you willing to come on video even, or just voice?
Oh, no, not video. I'm still in my robe.
Oh, okay.
In fact, speaking of prayer ministries, I'm working on putting together the new prayer ministry lists. We make calls to people in our community, and once a year we
How
get
many years have you been involved in prayer ministry at Unity of Tustin?
17 years.
17 years. I was there for 19 years as a senior minister. Susan was so involved in the prayer ministry significantly for so many years. And I just want to thank you so much for that. That prayer call from a prayer chaplain once a month to every single member of the congregation was huge. So thank you so much, Susan. Really, really appreciate it. And another person at Unity in Tustin that has that same kind of role is Patty Higgins. Patty, are you willing to say hello? Do you want to unmute yourself and come online for just a minute? We only have about 2 minutes left. I think she's showing me no. Is that right, Patty?
Cecilia has her hand raised.
Who?
Cecilia?
Cecilia. All right, Cecilia.
Hello.
Hello, Cecilia.
I just want to thank you for this call. I'm glad I found my way on. And just what was shared about making those decisions, to change your direction of your life. I found it very healing to hear Steve and Ross talk about moving away from what they thought they were going to do to take a completely different path. That was definitely my experience. And I felt such a healing listening to them share. And it just like that idea I had in my mind, like I didn't do the right thing, just dissipated. It's like, nope, you were right. You were right on. You did exactly what you needed to do to live the life that you're living. So thank you. Thank you so much.
How beautiful. So I just want to remind everyone, we appreciate so much your love offering, your donations to Called by Love Institute. You can mail that or make that donation on PayPal. Either one works, and it's a great joy to do these calls. And I just have a heart for that love offering, love donation. And we may do something in the future, talk about doing some more intense work with some of the guides that would include Mary Hostetter and others. So that's one thing I wanted to let you know about. And then Mary, you'll be on the call next week, next month in May, and you will be our spotlighted guest. And I talked to Ross for a minute or two this morning. I said, "You're going to be on that call, aren't you, Ross?" And he said, "I wouldn't miss it. What? She's my divine consort."
So Marge, maybe we could just close up. Could you send us out with a little benediction?
So let's just take a moment and feel the deep, deep gratitude for every beautiful moment on this call, even the surprises, even the fact that we had technical difficulties at the first, even the fact that I had to move out of my office and go to the kitchen table in order to do the call with someone like Steve Farrell. Oh my God, talk about humility. How beautiful it is to simply say yes to the Holy Spirit. No matter how the Holy Spirit shows up as hitting the wall or the surprises of life or the invitations that we didn't expect or the ones that are more visible, we simply say, "Thank you, oh beloved one. We are so deeply grateful." Deep love and deep gratitude, everyone.
Thank you, Marge.
Yes.
All right, we'll see you all next month.